you want me to read this first?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Just say right here.
Okay.
Shabbat shalom, everyone, and good Shabbos.
Yes.
There we go. Dennis is here. We hear him. It's a beautiful day here in Huntington. I know up in Pennsylvania the weather was less than delightful, but here this was a almost perfect day. Just absolutely beautiful day here in Huntington, leading us into an absolutely beautiful, beautiful Shabbos. And so we are here this evening, Friday night services. We have an own egg, so it's not too late to come. There'll be food. I tell you, if you come, we'll feed you. Mary Lee and sponsored it along with, we'll say Herman too.
Sure.
We'll put Herman in on this one too. We love Herman. And so we're gonna have her Ben Schlicht, responsive reading on page 3. Either the top 2 or the bottom 2, whichever one you want.
Right here?
Wait, yep.
Okay. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As the brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
I hope I can do this.
Push it forward. Push it forward. You gotta keep it pushed forward, and then pull the trigger.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
All right, let's continue on page 6. Page 6, let's read responsively in the middle of the page. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship.
May all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express fellowship with you.
May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May it spread open their stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May the synagogue be for all who enter, the doorway to a rich meaning and life.
We're going to jump ahead to page 20. Kabbalat Shabbat is when we cut our ties to the work week and ease our way into the 25 hours that is Shabbat. And lots of psalms, lots of songs, and one of the best known we have is Lecha Dodi. Comes to us all the way from the mystical city of Sfat, up in the north in the Galil, one of the most beautiful places in all of Israel. Top of page 20. Lecha Dodi Librat Kala, Penei Shabbat Nikabila. Lecha Dodi Librat Kala, Penei Shabbat Nikabila. Shamor Zachor B'dibor Echad, Ishmi'anu El Hamyuchad, Adonai Echad U'Shmo Echad, L'Shem Tiferet V'Litila, Lecha Dodi Librat Kala, Penei Shabbat Nikabila, Likrat Shabbat Lechu V'Nelcha, Ki Mekor HaBracha, Merosh Mikedem Nehesucha, Sof Ma'aseh V'Machshava Tefila, Lecha Dodi Librat Kala, Penei Shabbat Nikabila, Mikdash Melech Ir Melucha, Umitzihi Mitov Hafecha, Ravla Hakshevet V'Yemecha Bacha, Vehu Yachamol Alaychem Ha, Lecha Dodi Librat Kala, Penei Shabbat Nikabila, Itna Ari Me'afar Kumi, Livshi B'Gei Tifarte Chambi, Al Yad Ben Ishai Beit HaLachmi, Korba El Nafshi Yehala, Lecha Dodi Librat Kala, Penei Shabbat Nikabila, Hitorari, Hitorari, Kiva ore kumi uri shir daberi. Kevod Adonai alai nigla. Lecha dodi likra kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lo tevoshi velo tikolvi. Mahatish tochachi matehemi. Vachyechesu Ariye Ami, Benihivneta Iraltila, Lecha Dodi Likra Kala, Benei Shabbat Nekabila, Vahayu Lashimsa Shohosayich, Verahacha Kuhu Kol Nevalayich, Yasi Salayich, Elohayich, Ki himsos chatan al kala, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei shabbat nekabila, yamin usmol tifrotzi, v'et Adonai taritzi, al yadish benisha ben partzi, v'nihismecha v'nagila, Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei shabbat nekabila, ro'i v'shalom ateret bala, gaham v'simcha u'sola, tochemunei am segula, vo'i chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat Nekabila. Let's turn to page 22. Some verses from Psalm 92, also known as the Psalm for Shabbat. And let's read the outdented paragraph together in English, and then go to Tzaddik Katamar after that. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. With a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai. How very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. Tzaddik Katamar Yifrach. Ke'erez balvanot yiskeh shetuli bebeit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu ojiluhu b'seifa Deshenim v'ra'ananim yihiyu lehagi ki ashar Adonai suri v'ohav latavo. Page 24. Let's welcome the angels who come to spend Shabbat with us. The two angels who come on Shabbat, escorting us home from synagogue. Shalom Aleichem, top of 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Nihi melech, malachei amlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Baruch hu l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All right, that is Kabbalat Shabbat. We have officially welcomed Shabbat. Shabbat is here with us. And so we're going to turn to the evening service, Aravit L'Shabbat, the evening service for Shabbat, page 146, Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Le'olam Ha'ed. Let's read together on 147 in the middle of the English. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you, and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Page 148, the second blessing, the second bracha before Shema. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Al Pein Adonai Eloheinu, V'shalteinu u'kumeinu, Nasiach bechukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, U'v'mitzvotecha, Le'olam ha'ed. Ki heim chayenu, V'yorech yameinu, V'yorech yameinu, V'hem negeh, Yomam v'layla, Yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavat techal tasir mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta ha'et Adonai Elohecha, Bechol levacha, Bechol nafshecha, Ubechol meodecha, Ve'hayu advarim ha'ele, Asher anochi mitzavecha, Hayom ha'levavecha, V'shinantam levanecha, V'dibarta bam, V'shitecha b'veitecha, Uvlechtecha b'derech, Uv'shoktecha uv'kumecha, Ukshartam le'ot al yadecha, Ve'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha, Uv'savtam al mezuzot beitecha, Uv'isharecha, Leman tizkeru, V'asitem kol mitzvotai, V'tem kedoshim le'loechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Page 151, let's read responsively in the English. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp, as imperfection need abound.
Before our eyes, there's a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart. There is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
We grant everyone when we claim for ourselves.
Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learn God's presence redeems time and events, so we celebrate His power and His freedom.
Top of 152. Mi chamocha ba'ilim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nohora tehilot osei pele, malchutecha ra'u banecha, bokeyam lifnei Moshe, zeili anu v'yamruhu, Adonai yimloch leolam vaed, v'nemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov, u'ga'alo miad chazak mimenu, baruch atah Adonai, ga'al Yisrael. Top of page 153, the beginning of Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chaim. And let's read together in the English. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Top of 154 verses from the book of Shemot, from the book of Exodus, recalling our relationship with Shabbat. It's Vishamru, and it's not Shabbos without it. It's not Shabbos if you don't have it. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, ולעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. We're at the central prayer for the evening service, the Amidah, pages 155, 156, and 157. We will chant together, and then we'll go silently as we finish the Amidah on our own. You can read the Hebrew, you can read the English, you can offer up your own meditative prayer during that time. But we're going to begin together on 155. Adonai sifatai tikach u'viyagi tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tikach
Uviagi Tehillatzecha. Adonai, open up my lips, and my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu, Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור, הנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, וברוך אתה אדוני, Magid Avraham, Yezrat Sarah, Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayim eti Matarav Lahoshia, Mashiv HaRuach, Umorid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayim eti Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Merofech Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Alfa, Michamocha B'Gvurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Mimid, Umechayem, Umatzliach Yeshua. ונאמן אתה להחיות מתי, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתי.
Still finishing up your Amidah. Please feel free to continue at your own pace. We're going to jump ahead to page 160. Page 160, and let's read this paragraph together in the English. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 163 at the top, a little bit of hoda'ah, a little bit of thanksgiving, thankfulness. Lots of good things happened this week. And we have a lot to be grateful for. Hakarat HaTov is one of the ways that we reach a state of hoda'ah, a state of thanksgiving, recognizing the good, even if it looks like it's all all bad or if it's all down, it's all uphill. No, there's always some good to be found. And for that, we can be thankful. So on top of 163, let's read responsibly. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. For the desire in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful.
For life and for harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow. All praise to the source of peace.
And we turn the page to 164, and we find our prayer for peace. In the evening, it's Shalom Rav, and we'll close out the Amidah with a prayer for peace. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasi Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasi Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol heitu b'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Praise are you, Adonai, who blesses your people, Israel, with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. Let's jump ahead to page 253, one of the many different prayers we have for the sick, for healing. This one is the Mishaberach. And if you have anyone who needs a little extra healing, spiritual, emotional, physical, keep them in your thoughts and close to your heart as we prepare for Mishaberach in the middle of page 253. Mishaberach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Le'imahotenu. Bless the source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mikor HaBracha La'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Page 258 and 259, prayers of our community. And we'll begin with the prayer for our congregation. And Doc, how about that? Top of 258.
The source of all being, may the children of the community learn those passions from us: love of Torah, devotion and prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy.
Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levacha v'yirah na'avo.
David, the prayer for our country.
O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that may we serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. And let us say amen.
Amen. Shalom Shalom Yerushalayim, Yishlayu Ohabayich. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. Maximus, you ready? Come on up. Tonight we have a special guest, Max. Special and a guest. And he's been working on the prayer for Israel in Hebrew. So we're going to have him read it for us this evening in Hebrew.
Avinu Shabbat Shamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Golalo, Baruch et Midnat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Geulatenu, Hagen Alaha Be'evrat Chasdecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shalomecha, Ushlach Orcha V'amitecha L'Rashecha, Sareha V'yotzecha, V'taknem Ba'etza tova milfanecha, v'natata shalom ba'aretz, v'simchat olam v'yoshveha, v'nomar amen.
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 Well done. Max has a birthday coming up on Monday as well, so he's going to be 75. Oh no, that's his soul. He has the old soul. That's it. Well done, Max.
You're getting old fast. Good job.
He's catching up to you, Dennis.
I
And speaking of you, Dennis, how about the prayer for Israel in English?
How about that? Okay. Our Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it in the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen.
Amen. All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom and Good Shabbos. This week, our parsha is Vayeshev, and it begins the longest narrative in the book of Genesis. And it's the story of Yosef, right? And it reads like a novel. In fact, Thomas Mann wrote a book, Yosef und seine Brüder, and it tops out at, I think, 1,300 pages in German and even more in English. It is an amazing story. And next to this Moshe, Yosef has the most written about him in the Torah. More than Abraham, more than Isaac, more than Jacob, more than his father Jacob. The Yosef story takes up almost the last quarter of the book of Genesis. And so what we see are that many, many issues regarding family are revisited in the Joseph story. We have animosity between brothers, right? We saw that way at the beginning with Cain and Hevel. We had some manufactured animosity between Isaac and Ishmael. We had the real animosity between Esau and Yaakov. And now we have the animosity between Joseph and 10 of his brothers. Again, it's Yosef is the favorite son of Jacob. Jacob was the favorite son of his mother Rachel, and we keep revisiting these same themes over and over, hoping that they will change. In fact, Yosef is such the apple of his father's eye that he gets a coat of many colors. Now, you would say, what's the big deal here, Rabbi? So he liked Joseph. There was a hierarchy in ancient Middle East. The youngest kid got nothing, almost nothing. It's the older children, the older sons, who were the ones that were held in esteem. And in this case, we're putting
the tradition of the ancient Middle East on its ear. Joseph has a series of dreams where he takes great pleasure in telling his brothers that what his dreams mean is that he is going to rise over them and rule over them someday. He has a dream where they are binding sheaves, and Joseph's sheaves stand up, and the brothers, who are represented by other sheaves, bow down to him. He has another dream, again, where he explains it in great zest and zeal to his brothers that the sun, the moon, and 11 stars all shine, but his star is the brightest. And he tells this to his father. He tells this to Yaakov. And instead of kind of nipping it in the bud, Yaakov doesn't say anything. He keeps it to himself. He remains silent. And so one day Joseph goes out to report on his brothers. Apparently his father would say, go and tell me what your brothers are doing. If they're out smoking behind the haystacks, or if they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, come back and report on them. And the brothers decide that they've had enough. The Torah speaks some of the most frightening words about human relationships. Is that the Torah says that they could not speak a peaceful word to each other. Right? There was no brotherly love. There was no kindness. When they saw Yosef coming, they knew that he was going to report back to the father. So they plot to kill him. They decide that they're going to kill him. But Reuven, the oldest son, says, no, we can't do this. This is wrong. I know he's a pain, right? I, myself, as a rabbi, know the pain of having a younger brother. I mean, younger brothers are painful. And Reuven says, we can't do that. So he convinces the brothers to throw him into a pit, and that they will figure out what they're going to do with him later. So while they're eating, a group of Midianites come and pass by that pit. I guess they look in to see if there's water, and they see Yosef. So they take him and they sell him to the Ishmaelites. So the brothers go back to the pit, and there is no Yosef. And so they realize that they can't just go home without a story for the old man. So they take his coat of many colors that was left behind, they tear it, they dip it in goat's blood, and when they go home, they tell their father that unfortunately Yosef was killed by a beast. And this breaks Yaakov's heart. And he mourns him. Right in the middle of this parsha, we have a drop-in story. Last week we had the rape of Dinah as the drop-in story. In this week's story, it's Yehuda and Tamar. And again, I think, there's no real, I call it a drop-in story because it has nothing to do with what just happened with Yosef. And when the story continues, it has nothing to do with that continuation either. So it is literally just dropped in. And I think it's about not knowing the whole story, right? Yehuda is one of Jacob's older sons, and he has 3 sons. He has a son named Er, he has a son named Onan, and he has a son named Shelah. And so he marries off Er to a woman named Tamar. And the story says that Er did something that was displeasing to God, and so God struck him down. Okay, right? So we have in the Bible, and even in some ultra Orthodox communities, what's called Levirate marriage. Levirate marriage is if a man dies childless, meaning he doesn't have a son, his next oldest brother is to marry his widow. And then when they have a child, the son is credited to the deceased brother. All right, so Er is dead. We have a second son named Onan. And so now he has to step up. Now you got to remember, in the biblical world, men had multiple wives. So it doesn't matter if Onan was married or not married. But Yehuda says, okay, you can have Onan. And he doesn't want to fulfill this. So when he and Tamar are intimate, he doesn't complete the deed. He spills his seed. And God says, no, your brother angered me, and now you're angering me. So Onan is struck down, leaving Shelah. Now, Yehuda might not be the brightest of the brothers,
but he knows he sent 2 of his sons to this woman, Tamar. Both of his sons died, and he's reluctant to send Shelah to her. So he says, well, he's a little too young, well, now she can't marry anybody else unless they go through a ritual, and the ritual doesn't take place. So she waits patiently and patiently and patiently and patiently, and it turns out that Yehuda's not going to send his son to her. So she hears Yehuda's coming to town, and she dresses herself up like a little tartlet, and she waits for him on the side of the road where these little tartlets would wait, the travelers, or the sailors, and say, hey, sailor, you got some time? So Yehuda is attracted to her, and they get a room. And so at the end, he goes to look for what he would, her gratuity, as it were. And he said, what do you know? I left my wallet in my other pants. I don't have anything. She says, that's all right. Leave your signet ring with me and your cord. And when you're passing through next time, you can collect them and you can pay me. He says, okay, and he heads off. And lo and behold, right now, all the other stories about people getting pregnant, it's always a difficult or strenuous process. Tamar, not so much. She winds up pregnant. How did that happen, you wonder? Right? And so word gets back to Yehuda, and he is angry because wait, she was supposed to be saving herself for my 3rd son, whom I'm not going to send to her, but she should still be waiting. And he says all sorts of nasty things about her, saying that she should be burned, she's an adulteress, she's all of this. And he is in such a hurry to exact this vengeance upon her that he heads up, and he finds her pregnant, and he calls her out. And he says, how dare you? You were supposed to be waiting for my son. And she says, you're right. But can you tell me who owns this cord and this ring? And then all of a sudden, Yehuda realizes that that tartlet, that harlot by the side of the road, was in fact Tamar, and she pulled one over on him. And so he winds up with her. So I guess Shelah was safe, and she has twins. So, and that's the story. That's the story. It ends there. And so it's this idea of watch what you say and know the whole story before you open your mouth. And then the Torah stops the Yehuda and Tamar. That's the last we hear of that particular couple. And we go back to the Yosef story. He's now in Egypt, in Mitzrayim. And he winds up working for this fellow named Potiphar. And he winds up running a household. Now, Yosef is what we would call in 21st century parlance, a pretty boy. And he knows it. And Potiphar's wife decides, there's this pretty young man who's working for us. Let me see what shenanigans we can get into. And she causes trouble for Yosef because he actually turns her down. But at one point, she has his pants. And I'm not quite sure how that works out in him turning her down. But anyway, he winds up on the street, half dressed, and then winds up in jail. Potiphar says, I trusted you, and look what you've done. And in jail, he makes some friends, and he becomes friendly with the cupbearer for Pharaoh and the baker to Pharaoh, and they have dreams. And he interprets them, and it turns out he's right. The baker's dream comes true, and he dies, and the cupbearer is released. And the cupbearer says, well, thank you for this. He says, it wasn't me, it was God. And this is Joseph starting to grow up a little bit. And he says to the cupbearer, don't forget me. And guess what? The cupbearer forgets him. And that's where the parasha ends. Yosef in jail. There were no new mitzvot in this week's parasha. Nothing new in the book of Genesis. And that's our parasha in a nutshell. So here we are, just a couple of days away from one of the most insignificant holidays on our calendar, yet it is one of the one that everybody knows, right? It's probably the most visible of all of our Chagim. Everybody knows about it, even if they can't pronounce it or spell it. They know that it's Hanukkah, and it falls during the darkest time of the year. All right, the 25th of Kislev, which is the original date of Hanukkah, falls during the darkest part of the year. And not necessarily spiritually dark, but physically, well, spiritually dark, because there's nothing between now really and Pesach. We have Purim, but that's another story. But and the days are getting shorter, and it's very, very dark. And one of the best lessons we could learn from Hanukkah is that even one candle, a single candle, brightens up the room. All right, and a candle, believe it or not, it's one of these things of physics that a candle flame could keep giving and giving and giving and never get extinguished until it burns. The candle burns down. So if you could keep a candle burning, it can light limitless candles from that one flame. Never exhausts itself. It's a minor festival. It's not mentioned in the Tanakh. It's not mentioned in the Bible at all. It's part of the Apocrypha. 4 books of the Maccabees show up in the Apocrypha, and those are additional books that found their way into Orthodox Christian Bibles and the Roman Catholic Bible. Some Protestant groups have them as well. We don't have them. We don't have them as part of our Bible because they were written in Greek, and we don't have any Greek scriptures in our text. So they're basically Jewish texts found in Christian Bibles. Just because we don't accept them as canonical biblical texts, we do look at the book of Maccabees as pretty much the only historical record we have of the Maccabees. And it's a whole different story there. But Hanukkah teaches us a number of lessons that we should remember during Hanukkah. Even fanatics get things right. Right? We live in a time where there are a lot of fanatics running around. And the Maccabees were no different. They were religious fanatics. They were so bent on getting the temple back and getting things back to the way they did them, the way they wanted. It's the phrase that destroys not only temples in Jerusalem, but synagogues across the country. We've always done it this way. All right, so the Maccabees wanted to get back to the way they had always done things. Now, they were great warriors, but not great leaders. In fact, the Maccabees are the reason why Rome got into Israel in the first place. There was arguments between brothers, the descendants of the Maccabees, as to who was going to do what, who was going to be king, who was this, who was that. And one of them said to Rome, come on in and protect me. Of course, Rome said yes. Started to set up little military encampments, got bigger military encampments, and pretty soon Rome is controlling Israel. For the Maccabees, though, it was their way or no way, and they ruled with an iron fist. But before they were the powerful leaders, before they became the villains of Jewish history in some ways, they recognized that something had to change. That the status quo that was going on wasn't going to sustain them forever. And they couldn't let people remain on the wrong path. So they fought for their beliefs, but that's the point, is that sometimes even a fanatic, even though we might not like their beliefs, push us in the right direction, make the rest of us think. Another thing to remind ourselves about is that there's always time for spiritual house cleaning, and rededication to our tradition, not just for the high holidays and on Passover, which are 2 obvious times, but Hanukkah is that time where the Maccabees went in and they cleaned up the temple. They restored the temple. The word Hanukkah means to rededicate, to dedicate. There's a psalm in the Shabbat morning service, Mizmor Shir Hanukkah Habayit LeDavid, a psalm for the rededication of the house, of the temple. Hanukkah is a good time for us to take stock and see where we are. We made all sorts of promises, and we promised to do better at the high holidays. Let's see where we are. Are we living up to the way we thought we would be at Hanukkah? It's always time to adjust. And get rid of the stuff. Get rid of that extra stuff that weighs us down. And finally, the last piece is take risks. You never know when a miracle might occur. Right? In the books of the Maccabees, there's no mention of the miracle of the oil. That comes much later with the rabbis. But can you imagine the setting of that? You're the Maccabees, and it's time you want to rededicate the temple, and you've done all of that. Now it's time to light the menorah, the 7-branched candelabra. And you find 1 cruse of oil. Imagine that board meeting, right? There's 1 cruse of oil, and well, what are you going to do with it? And you can imagine that half the board will say, well, we can't use it because it's only enough for 1 day. And what good is it 1 day? Because it's going to take at least 8 days to press new oil. So we might as well just sit here in the dark, but at least we have the oil. And then the other half of the board would say, you got to use it. You got to use it. Even if it lasts 1 day, you got to use it. Better to have it for 1 day than to sit in the dark for all the other days. And you can imagine this board meeting, right? Going back and forth, this and that. And finally, one unnamed guy to history, we don't know his name, gets up and he lights it anyway. You can imagine the next board meeting. How dare he do that? We were arguing about nothing, and he took it away from us. But the miracle happened. And without that unnamed Maccabee going and lighting the oil, the miracle wouldn't have happened. They would have sat in the dark. Or maybe after they were done arguing and they lit it, it would have only burnt for 1 day because there was no faith involved. But the guy who went and lit it didn't care if it was going to last 1 day or 8 days. He just knew that we needed light. And so you never know. If you don't take the risk, you're always going to wind up sitting in the dark. Now, the fun thing about studying the Torah is that even if something is not mentioned in the Bible, the rabbis find allusions to the Hanukkah story. In the book, in the first Parsha, Bereshit, in the beginning of Genesis, the 25th word of the Parsha is the word or, which means light. And why is the 25th word important that means light? Because Hanukkah begins on the 25th day of Kislev. So if you count 25 words, you get light. 25, the 25th of Kislev is when the miracle occurred. Now, is that just luck, or is that hashgacha pratis? Is this God, really pointing out that in the book of Genesis we were thinking? I don't know. But then again, in Parshat Maaseh, near the end of Bamidbar, there's that parsha counts the encampments that Bnei Yisrael stayed in while they were in the Midbar, while they were in the wilderness. They stopped by one what was called Hashmonah, right? And the rabbis say that leads us to the Hashmoneim, which are the Hasmoneans. Right, so you have that place that points forward, perhaps. And guess what number stop that was in the desert? Number 25. So in the book of Genesis, you have Or as the 25th word, and a place called Hashmonah, the 25th stop on the Torah of Bnei Yisrael in the Midbar. I don't know. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt up in your philosophy. So who knows? No. Shabbat shalom and good Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom and good Shabbos.
So Dennis, was it actually the 25th stop? You were there.
I was there,
You were
yes.
there.
Yeah. If you say it, I believe it.
All right, it is time for Kiddush. A little bit of Kiddush for the Friday night. And so
ויהיה ויבוקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, בשבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחיל לנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית. יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
All right, let's start closing out our evening service. Page 282, Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת סוזו ושכינת סוזו בגותי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אינו, אמת מלכנו וחסולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום בהשבתך אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת זהו. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו echad.
This week, we observed the following yard sites. Faye Elderman Borstein, Joe Coker's wife, Al's sister. Stephen Yablo, father of his and Marilyn's daughters, Samantha Mallinger, Jenna Geffen, and Rachel Yablo. Sally L. Sparks, mother of Alan Siegel's wife.
Norman Friedman, father of Jeff and Hillary. Ray Cutler Jaffe, Jack Cutler's sister. Peter Island, son of Ed and Evelyn. Sharon Greenstein Ivanachek, daughter of Alfred and Miriam, Murray's sister. Joseph Elswick, Pat Johnson's great-great-grandfather. Lydia Hess, Tam Murphy's grandmother. Anna Kaplan, Sam's wife, mother of Stephen and Betsy, Pauline's sister-in-law. Charles Levine, Loretta's husband, Leanne and Amy's father. Robert Levy, husband of Joyce, father of Peter, Jane, and Joel. Helen Robbins, Howard Feinberg's maternal grandmother. Harold Curran, Beryl's husband. Selma Footlick Galpin, Betty Colker's mother. Rachel Leah Poland, Joan Weisberg's grandmother. Marge Halstead, Karen Colker's mother. Samuel Mansbach, Gerald's brother. Albert Levine, Marilyn Cohen's father. Stan Rubin, Nancy Neufeld's father. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May their memories be a blessing to us always, and may they all rest in peace.
Amen.
Mourner's Scottish is found on page 294. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shnei Rabba, De'alma, Divra, Dirute, De'amlik Malchute, De'chayechod, Yomechod, Uchaye, Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'adalav, Izman, Karim, Vibru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba, Uvarach, L'olam, L'omeil Maya, Yisbarach, Yishtabach, Yishahar, Yishramam, Yitnaseh, V'yitzadar, v'yitzalev, v'yitzalal, Shei, V'shah, V'yichu, Le'vam, Inkol, V'yachata, V'shirata, Tushmachata, V'nechamata, V'amirav, V'alma, V'yivru, Amen. Yehei Shlama, Rabba, Min Shemaya, T'chayim, Oleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'yivru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, V'yimram, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'yivru,
Amen.
Amen. All right, friends, just a couple of quick announcements before we break for the Oneg, sponsored by, well, we know them as ML and Herman online every Shabbat, but we have Mary Lee here in person, and so we thank you for the Oneg this evening. Services tomorrow at 10 a.m. and again Sunday at 9. We have the Hanukkah dinner at 6 o'clock Sunday evening. So bring your Hanukkah and we'll be lighting here at the synagogue. And then for the rest of the week, we'll be lighting on Zoom. And you can use the same link that Martha sent out. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 6 p.m. Friday at 4:30 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday next week at 6 p.m. Monday night, we have our deep dive into Genesis and the Yiddish choir. The choir with the most, the best choir from coast to coast is our Yiddish choir, and that is Wednesday evenings, right here in the boardroom or online, because we're still online with that because there are a lot of people who don't live in the area, namely New York and Los Angeles. So hard for them to get here just for Wednesday nights, so we're on Zoom for them as well. And then we'll be back next Friday. It'll be a brand new month, and it will also still be Hanukkah. So a bunch of things going on this week. So we look forward to seeing you all here. Maximus, well done this evening on the prayer for Israel in Hebrew. I think that's going to be yours from now on when you're here. You read it better than I do. So we'll see. Good job. And an early happy birthday. 72, 25, 16, no, 12. 12? Max is going to be 12 if his parents let him on Monday. We'll see. Next time he's here. How old are you, Max? I don't know. They wouldn't let me go. They're not letting me get older. Yeah. All right. We'll close out and head out to the Oneg with Adon Olam, page 321. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'Chefso Kol Azai melech shemo nikra v'acharei tichlot hakol. Levado imloch nora, vehu haya vehu hoveh, vehu yeh v'tifara, vehu echad v'ein sheni. Laham shelo lahapira, v'li reshit v'li tachlit, v'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra, vehu eli v'chai go'ali. V'tzorchev li v'yehitzara, vehu nisi umanos li, menat kosi v'yom ekra, v'yahado akid ruchi. V'yeti shan v'yahira, v'yimruchi g'vi'ati, Adonai li v'lo ira. All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos. We have people who are saying hello to us via the inner tubes or the interwebs or whatever it is. We have Jake Singerman, Shabbat Shalom from Sam and James. Well, thank you, Sam and James. Same to you. Zevin Music, Shabbat Shalom from Scott. Well, all right, Scott, same to you. And there's Mom. Shabbat Shalom to all from Rabbi's Mom and Cliff. Thanks, Mom. And Cliff, hope all have a peaceful weekend and week ahead. And then Mom adds, Happy Hanukkah to all. Well, thanks, Mom. Same to you and Cliff. All right, friends, lots going on. Hope to see you here for as much as you can stand it. I mean, Dennis is here every Friday night, and we love him. And, he couldn't be better if he were twins. I'm telling you. Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos. Please be careful out there. And we'll see you soon.
Amen. Sorry for the woodlands.